everybody. I'm Leora Sims. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another episode of my Sims 4 Law and Order SVU series. This is the season finale. I will begin season number 4 of the series in late October. Before I get back into gameplay and storytelling today, I'm going to very briefly talk about something that I thought no one participated in anymore. And that is hitchhiking. It's a very bad idea to be a hitchhiker, and it's a very bad idea to pick up a hitchhiker. I'm going to say something that you will probably hear me repeat during the series many times. I spent a lot of time this season talking about internet safety, being careful of people who you come into contact with through the internet, because they are strangers and you should be careful of strangers. But, in my humble opinion, you need to remember that just because you meet somebody once, face to face, that doesn't mean that they're not a stranger. You should not go walking off with somebody, and you should not hitchhike or pick up a hitchhiker, because when you get into someone's car as a hitchhiker, you are giving them control over you and over your whereabouts. And if you pick up a hitchhiker, they are in your car and can gain control over you. And if there's a hitchhiker out there who has bad intentions, chances are he or she has a plan in place to take control over you. I started to think about doing a hitchhiking episode a few months ago, and then I started to think, is this relevant nowadays? Do people hitchhike anymore? Because I thought that most people and all people were wiser. Or I should say, not wiser, I should say less trusting and more street smart. But a family member told me that they saw a hitchhiker about 2 weeks ago. This family member was driving the window was cracked open a bit, and when my family member saw the hitchhiker, my family member moved the window up. Not to be mean, not to be cruel, but you have to be careful when driving in your car. And I will do more videos on that, most likely next season. But somebody who you meet briefly in person is still a stranger, and they should not be trusted when you first meet them, any more than someone you meet online. You should always take precautions when meeting a stranger, and picking up a hitchhiker is not a precaution. It is very, very dangerous, and if you have done it successfully, if you have hitchhiked successfully without being hurt, then you are extremely lucky. When I was searching for information on hitchhiking months ago, I came across this movie called Andrea's Story. Now, I don't know if this is a true story or not. I don't think it is. But the point is, it could be. It was a very popular thing to hitchhike in certain areas a while back, especially for teenagers who didn't have cars. And Andrea and her friends in this movie hitchhiked often without a problem to the mall because they didn't want to walk. And they didn't want to take the bus. One day, Andrea decides she doesn't want to take the bus, and her boyfriend has to get to work. So he leaves her. He's going to leave her at the bus stop, or maybe she decided that she didn't want to go to the mall. But there was a car that pulled up suddenly, and the man in the car said that he would take her. The boyfriend leaves her with the man, trusting the man to take Andrea back to her home. He took her back to her home eventually. She told him where to go, and he went another direction. He then raped her, which is terrible. And thankfully, he took her home and didn't kill her. She didn't tell anybody for a while because she felt ashamed, as rape victims do. She felt stupid. But eventually it came out, and she decided to press charges. She went through a line up the whole process. Now, it's not Andrea's fault that she was raped, but hitchhiking is just not a good idea. You never know who you're getting in a car with, and when you pick someone up, you never know who that person is. And as I said, if that person has bad intentions toward you, or toward anyone who would pick them up, that person has planned something. to take control of you. Years ago, my relative was at camp in the country, and during camp, during those days, the campers could leave and go into town, I think maybe on Wednesday nights or something. And so he and his friends decided to hitchhike into town. And my relative, who is not a trusting individual at all, I don't know why he chose to hitchhike, except that he needed a ride and that hitchhiking was a normal occurrence back then. Something that was done quite often. And he was a kid. But he got a very bad feeling. And he started to kick and scream because the guy had asked him to do something. He had a very bad feeling. He started to get that feeling right as he entered the car, and he had a pocket knife with him, so he wanted to make sure that pocket knife was with him for self-defense purposes only. He never used it. He kicked and screamed, and whatever the guy instructed him to do, he said no. And eventually the guy pulled over and let him out. So he got lucky. There was another story I heard last night. I don't know if this is a true story. I think it is. Or just a cautionary tale. But either way, the story of Andrea could happen to anyone who decides to hitchhike. The story of what could have happened to my relative, or the story of my relative hitchhiking, that's true. The story I heard last night is a very scary one, whether it's true or not. A very kind-hearted woman decided to pick up a hitchhiker who looked like he needed help. They talked, they had nice conversation, and she even bought the man food. Then he told her where to drop him off. He got out of the car, and she felt like she met a new friend. They had been in the car together and stopped at a rest stop together, so they had been together for hours. So when he asked for her phone number, she didn't think anything of it. She wanted to catch up with him someday, so she gave it to him because she was a trusting individual. About a week later, she gets a phone call from the hitchhiker. And he tells her all of the horrible things that he was planning on doing to her. But he chose not to, because she was so kind to him, and he couldn't bring himself to do these horrible things. But he planned to do these horrible things, so he asked her never, ever to pick up a hitchhiker again. She never did. But after getting such a scary call, she wanted to know if she should do something. So she called the number back. She tried to call the number that he gave her when they had parted ways. And it was the number of a payphone. Whether that story is true or not, doesn't matter, because it could be true. When I was a teenager, horror movies never scared me. Movies about monsters never scared me. Fake blood never scared me. What scared me were what scared me was the movies that could really happen. And I always tried to learn from them. So I hope, no matter how tempting it is, that you never hitchhike. And I know what it's like not to have your own transportation. And I hope that you never pick up a hitchhiker. The hitchhikers that have something sinister on their mind are counting on your goodness the same way abusers do. A hitchhiker who will come up with a sinister plan and take it out on you is an abuser. An abuser that you let into your life. So don't do it. Please. Be happy, healthy, and stay safe. I will be back with gameplay. It's been a while since Olivia Benson spent any time with Kathleen Stabler. Kathleen Stabler is going to go off to college soon, and Olivia wanted to give her some tips today to help her stay safe, of course. Kathleen could talk to her dad and even her mom about some personal stuff, but sometimes it's easier to talk to someone who is not a parent and ask them life advice. Olivia has a lot of experience talking to kids and talking to teens. So she's going to brighten her day. And she's going to fire her up because they're at the gym. And she wants her to feel empowered to protect herself and make the right decisions. Don't pick up hitchhikers. Don't get into a strange car. By the way, it has been reported that Christopher Maloney, who played Elliot Stabler on Law and Order SVU, or Law and Order Special Victims Unit, for 12 years, will be coming back to visit as Detective Stabler, and that after that, Christopher Maloney will be getting his own show where he plays Elliot Stabler. Now, I honestly don't know how successful that show is going to be. I think, in my humble opinion, they will have to do a lot of crossovers between SVU and Maloney's new show in order for Maloney's show to be successful. Christopher Maloney, I believe, is a very talented actor, but I have read what a lot of fans say, and they don't want to see him with a partner who is not Olivia, which I can understand. And Olivia is now on the show a captain, so she is no longer a detective. She no longer has a partner in the same way that she used to. She's running the entire department or squad. But I'm hoping that the show is successful, and Law and Order Special Victims Unit has done crossovers before. They did crossovers with Chicago PD and Chicago Fire, which I believe worked out not only for SVU but for the other shows as well, especially the other shows. So I'm glad that I created a Elliot Stabler for this game and placed him in the world. I had no idea at that time that the actor was planning on making even one appearance as Elliot Stabler. this is an adult? What are you, talking to, this guy seems creepy. He's an adult talking to a teen. So Olivia is going to just, walk away. She doesn't want to have a confrontation. She can hold her own, but that's not her first choice, is to have a confrontation. So she's going to walk off with, Miss, Stabler here. Just walk away from the creepy man, and hopefully that works. Can they box together? I always forget if they could do this. Don't talk to the creepy guy. Talk to us. He's an adult sim. She's a teen. Just wanted to say that again in case that wasn't clear. I'm sure the, Stabler show will come up again in an episode of this series, because I have some things, that I want to say. But the things that I want to say have to do with a different, topic. So I can save those things for another video. And no, she's not, doesn't look like she's boxing with her. Looks like Olivia is boxing on her own. And Olivia might as well talk to, Melinda, who is working out. Oh, she's not talking to Melinda and boxing at the same time, huh? Now, Melinda is the medical examiner. She may come up, in the series, a lot next season, or maybe the season after. Melinda is ex-military, and there's a lot that I can, say about, that. I end the series during the summer, so that I can regroup, go over my topics, and, think of new ones. I already came up with a few new ones, but, I do talk about, serious subject matter, on this series, and I do like to take breaks so that I come back to this series that I love so much with a fresh set of eyes and more importantly, because abuse is always wrong, not so much a fresh set of eyes as a clear head. I want to do these episodes to the best of my ability always, and I feel around this time that around this time of year, I need a break so that I could focus on the topics that I will be covering in the next season the best way that I know how. And this series is going to help me with my nonprofit. It has helped me with my nonprofit already. So the speeches that I make at the beginning of this series are very, very important to me. I'd like to go around the country. I'd like to go around the world and speak about these things. Because I don't believe that there should be any room in society for domestic violence or sexual assaults. Unfortunately, it happens because this is a scary world sometimes, and I can't change that domestic violence is going to happen, and I can't change that sexual assault is going to happen, but maybe I can change it a little bit by educating and advocating. I'm ending this episode here, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you, and I will be back with this series in October. Be happy, healthy, and stay safe. Next season will be season number 4. If you missed any of the other episodes, please go back and watch them, and please pay attention to the information provided in the description of the video, especially if you or someone you know is in need of help. That's why the information is there.